Solitaire, a game for guys like me, without a thing to do or a place to go. I remember I had been playing it a lot. But I guess it was better than dealing with all those bills, and that wasn't counting the 3 easy payments still left on my old Charger. But then, things started to look up for Mike Mallett, private investigator. She told me her name was Jane Roby, and that she was representing 4 area clients. I figured she was an attorney. Smart, successful, too. Pearl necklace, silk blouse. She sure didn't hurt the eyes none either. She told me that all 4 of her clients sell cars and believed Dodge Daytona stole sales, which should have been theirs. There wasn't any concrete proof, so she wanted me to find some for her. She gave me a package with catalogs and specs and a list of the salespeople and where I was supposed to meet them. She'd arranged for the cars to be there. I told her my rate. It didn't faze her a bit. She just gave me an envelope with 5 crisp $100 bills. Maybe it was the way this woman looked at me. Maybe I was just sick of solitaire. Or maybe it was the money. Yeah, it was the money, all right. I decided to take the case. A lot of people wonder what it's like to be an investigator, private eye, gumshoe, whatever you want to call it. Since you'll be with me on this case, why not try it yourself? Find out how by looking through the rules and press resume when you're ready to continue. Here are the vehicles I'll be investigating. On the case notes, you'll find a summary of major facts. Let's get started. The base Daytona is accused of stealing a sale from a Ford salesperson who was just about to close her customer on a Mustang LX. The customer said she was going to get a drink of water and never came back. She was later seen driving a new Daytona. To find out if there really was a crime here, I had to examine the possible buying motives, styling, performance, interior, and value. Review a motive to find out the facts or go directly to the clues and questions if you think you're ready. I got to the park where I was supposed to meet Ford saleswoman Cindy Lou Crawford. The cars were already there, so I used the time to give them the once-over. Both the Daytona base and the Mustang LX are attractive, sporty cars. However, there are some noticeable differences. Daytona's retractable headlamps versus Mustang's flush-mounted design, for example. But the biggest difference I could see was Daytona's sleeker profile. It looks more contemporary, a car styled for the 80s and 90s. Mustang was a styling leader, too, back in 1979, when it underwent its last major sheet metal freshening.
Good evening, Mr. Mallett. I'm Cindy Lou Crawford of the Richmond Crawfords.
Pleased to meet you, ma'am. What can you tell me about the performance side of the LX?
Well, the Mustang LX has an adorable 2.3-liter 4-cylinder engine with multi-point EFI matched to a standard 5-speed manual transmission or an optional 4-speed automatic. Yes, I know what you're going to say. Daytona does have more of that horsepower and torque.
The Mustang LX standard engine is a 2.3-liter L4 with
certainly not enough to make
multi-point
someone
fuel
just up and
injection.
walk out of my clothes.
But doesn't the Daytona engine also include balance shafts for smoother and quieter rides?
Well, I'm sure I don't know. But never mind. Well, that woman had so much nerve. I mean, she just walked up out of me when I was about to close her.
Cindy Lou was more concerned about her pride than the facts of the matter. When I confronted her about the facts, she just said, "I don't know, dear," and started babbling again. She couldn't say when I asked about Daytona's front-wheel drive versus the Mustang's rear-wheel drive design. She didn't know when it came to Daytona's standard 4-wheel disc brakes versus Mustang's conventional front disc rear drum layout. Maybe I was being overcautious, but there still wasn't a speck of evidence that indicated the sale was stolen.
Well, you can see right off this car's just loaded with cute standard features you can't find anywhere else. Why, there's full analog gauge instrumentation with a tachometer.
Daytona's got that.
Oh, I see. Well, how about standard reclining bucket seats with cloth upholstery?
Standard on Daytona, too.
I see. Well, there's intermittent wipers, remote fuel door, and deck lid releases. They're all standard.
Standard on Daytona, too, ma'am.
Well.
This line of questioning was getting me nowhere fast. The Mustang LX did have some advantages. Standard power locks and windows, speed control, all extra cost on Daytona. But then Daytona had a few things going for it, too.
Daytona
like a
has a
standard
standard
message
message
center,
center, a
which
feature not
alerts the
available in
driver to
Mustang
situations
LX.
that may need attention, such as a door ajar or low fuel, and the standard cup holder for those hot cups of Java in the morning.
Mustang
Neither
LX
feature is
features
available
front
at any
disc rear
cost on the
drum
Mustang
brakes.
LX. And Cindy, well, she was still griping about the nerve of her customer. I don't think she even noticed me leave. Base Daytona and Mustang LX buyers are often budget conscious. I thought that the answer might be here. But the truth of the matter is that both cars are pretty good buys. In fact, for my greenbacks, the Daytona seemed a better value. But that didn't flush with what I was hired to prove. I thought about the cars and what I knew were the facts. Daytona is priced less. It offers longer corrosion and powertrain warranty protection. It also
Standard
features a
on all
standard
Daytona
driver's
models.
side
Driver's side
airbag
airbag
system
isn't
that's
available
not
on
available on
Mustang
Mustang
LX.
at any price. And there were other things, too, like the two CS packages. The CS Performance package includes the 150 horsepower Turbo 1 engine, along with other styling and mechanical features of the ES Turbo and Shelby models, all at a price more in line with a base model buyer's budget. The CS Competition package takes the meat of the Shelby model, including the 174 horsepower intercooled Turbo 2 engine, and puts it in something of a plain brown wrapper. Mustang LX has a V8 engine and sport suspension upgrade package, too, but it doesn't really compare to what Daytona offers. I'd gone over the facts pretty carefully, and it was time to move on. The Chevy salesman says a Daytona ES model stole his sale. He said he was supposed to make a pitch for a Camaro RS over lunch, but when he got to the restaurant, the guy was pulling away in the Daytona. The customer probably had the same motives for his final decision as a lot of Daytona buyers: styling, performance, interior, and value. Review a motive to find out more, or go straight to the clues and questions. Pier 29 was under the first fog of the night. It seemed like a funny place to meet a car salesman, but then there's no accounting for taste. Like the styling of these two cars, all a matter of taste. Both are sporty with all the aero features you'd expect to see today. Well, not quite all the aero features. The headlamp cutouts on Camaro versus Daytona's retractable design, for example. I guess Chevy figures if Camaro had retractable headlamps, it would look too much like Firebird. They're probably right. The Daytona ES looks more current and modern.
Retractable headlamps
and it
aren't
should.
available on Camaro.
Its styling is new for
Camaro
1989.
underwent its last
while Camaro's
styling
last
facelift in
facelift was in
1982.
1982.
Boom! Yo, Mallet, Mike Mallet. So you're the private dick who's gonna pin that lousy Daytona?
Private investigator.
Yeah, sure.
Let's talk about engines here.
Fine, I'll crack the hood.
All right, this is the standard 2.8-liter multi-point V6, isn't it?
You got that right, pal. And with the standard 5-speed or the optional
Camaro
4-speed
RS
automatic,
features a
this
standard
baby kicks out
2.8-liter V6
135
engine
horses
with
and
multi-point
160
fuel injection.
foot-pounds of torque. And I'll tell you something else. You can order an optional 5-liter V8 if you really want to kick some.
But doesn't Daytona ES rack and pinion steering provide a faster ratio than Camaro's dated recirculating ball design?
That's the schmaster. Power is what it's all about, and that baby's got plenty of that.
Now, how about brakes? Daytona's got standard power disc brakes at all four wheels, but Camaro uses typical front disc rear drum design to stop.
Stop? Who needs to stop when you got all that power?
Daytona has a standard sports suspension. Can you get that on Camaro?
Bibbidi-boo, bibbidi-bop. Who knows? Who cares? Listen, just little old ladies. They're the only ones who care about a bumpy ride. Look, I'm telling you, power is what it's all about. Hey, Gumshoe, you listening to me?
The rear-wheel drive Camaro had a notoriously rough ride, and I wasn't an old lady.
Once you get inside, you got everything you need. Like full analog gauges.
It's the same on Daytona.
Well, you got dual mirrors with the remote on the driver's side.
Same for Daytona, but there's remote for both sides.
So what? Camaro offers standard cloth buckets.
Same on the ES. What else?
What do yous want?
How about a rear window defroster? Daytona ES includes it as standard.
Sure, it's only a few bucks extra.
And a split folding rear
Standard
seat.
on all
That's
Daytona
standard
models.
on
A
Daytona.
split folding rear
Yeah,
seat
you can
costs
order that.
extra on
Look, let's
Camaro.
not nitpick. I'm being totally honest with you when I tell you that that is one heck of a complete car.
You sure you're not leaving anything out?
Sure, I'm sure. What did you mean by that, Crack?
I later found out from a cop friend of mine that Vinny had a habit of leaving things out. Just little things, like a couple of zeros in the books at a shoe store he managed in Newark. Maybe that's why he didn't mention any of the other features that were standard on Daytona and extra cost on Camaro RS, like tinted glass or the remote deck lid release. And there were some things not even available on the RS, like Daytona's standard driver's side airbag, a remote fuel filler door release, cup holders, message center, even a locking glove box isn't available on the Camaro. I guess it must have slipped his mind. When it comes to value for the dollar, Daytona appeared to have a clear-cut advantage over the Camaro RS. I was tired, dog-tired, and I just sat in my office and turned the story over and over in my mind. The ES is priced much less and includes important standard features that aren't available on Camaro, like a driver's side airbag. Daytona provides longer warranty coverage for both the outer body and powertrain. As a And while theft the deterrent, Camaro includes a special standard ignition key lock interlock called system. passkey. Daytona labels 14 major components to make fencing stolen parts harder. So where was the crime? I sure couldn't see one. Not yet, at least. The Toyota salesman had gone through his presentation, and it looked like the sale was clinched. The prospect went to his credit union for a down payment, but never came back. In fact, he bought a Daytona ES Turbo instead. What made the difference? It had to be one or more of those four basic motives: styling, performance, interior, or value. Select a motive to review, or go straight to the clues and questions. Of all the alleged sales-stealing victims, the Toyota Celica GT liftback was the most up-to-date in its styling. Clean aerodynamic lines and a fluid shape, a contemporary blend of form and function. But the ES Turbo styling approach was clearly more aggressive, leaving no doubt as to its performance character. I guess I looked at it this way. If both of these cars went out on a rainy day, the Daytona could come back covered in mud and look great. The Celica would have to hightail it to the wash rack.
Mike Mallet, I presume?
That's right. You're Bill Gast.
Don't call me Bill. William.
Well, William, how's about telling me what's under the hood?
All right, but could we hurry? This place is filthy.
What's the standard engine here?
It's a fuel-injected
The Celica GT
four-cylinder
has a slightly
with a
tighter
standard
turning diameter
five-speed
than
manual or
Daytona
optional
ES Turbo.
four-speed automatic transmission. But look, I used to be an executive with a major computer firm. If my bosses hadn't been so jealous, I'd be a VP by now. Could we just get on with it?
You're a prince, pal. Doesn't Daytona's four-cylinder Turbo 1 engine have some real advantages over the GT's non-turbocharged power plant? Like balance shafts, more horsepower, more torque.
That's not the point. I could have won a trip to Bermuda if that guy hadn't walked on me.
Daytona's four-wheel disc brakes would appear to be an advantage over Celica GT's front disc rear drum design, too.
All I needed was just one more sale to qualify for that trip.
Billy seemed more upset about losing that trip than he did about losing the sale. I let him drone on and double-check the steering specs. Power-assisted rack and pinion steering is standard on both. While Daytona has a faster ratio than the GT, its turning diameter is slightly wider. Aren't available on I was left unimpressed with the Celica GT, and I'm convinced that Daytona had stolen this sale. I had better dig up some dirt on Daytona pretty soon if I was going to crack this case.
I'm going to run down this list of standard interior features on Daytona ES Turbo. Let me know which ones are standard on the Celica, okay?
Whatever you say, let's just pick up the pace.
Full analog gauges with tachometer.
Check.
Cup holders.
Check.
Deck lid and fuel door remote releases.
Yes, on both.
What about an AM stereo and FM stereo cassette with 8 speakers and an optional compact disc player?
AM FM
cassette player
stereo
isn't
with
included
4
on Celica
speakers and a
GT's
power
standard sound
antenna is
system.
standard.
No AM stereo, cassette, or optional CD player?
No. Look, I don't know what you're trying to prove, but I didn't pay $100 to put up with this kind of abuse. I don't have to stand here and take this.
So sit down, William.
What was that he said about $100? If they each paid 100, where did the fifth C note come from? That didn't make sense. I could see why he was getting a little sensitive, though. There were several features available or standard on Daytona that aren't available at any price on the Celica GT. The list includes a standard message center, optional electronic instrumentation with graphic and digital readouts in English or metric units, electronic navigator, seat upgrades. In all fairness, both cars are well equipped with a few minor trade-offs. Which brought me right back to the guts of this case. Was there any evidence that either car could steal the sale from the other? Getting your money's worth. That's what value is all about. Like my old trench coat, it cost me a pretty penny when I bought it, but then it's held up for a good 10 years. You get what you pay for. I went over the facts one more time. Both of these cars are good values. It wasn't what I was hired to prove, but that's where the facts pointed. Daytona's significant price advantage, real-world corrosion warranty protection that provides coverage for a period longer than many people even keep their cars. Longer powertrain coverage compared to Toyota's bumper-to-bumper warranty, and a standard driver's side airbag system that isn't even available on Celica. If there was a crime, the culprit was sure doing a good job of covering his tracks. In this case, the Pontiac salesman stopped for gas on a Trans Am demo drive. When he came back from the washroom, the car was still there, but the customer was gone. And yeah, you guessed it. The next day, the customer was seen driving a new Shelby. Which motive made the difference? Was it styling, performance, interior, or value? Select a motive for the lowdown on these cars, or go straight to the clues and questions. Trans Am and Shelby are both dressed as high-profile performance machines with the specs to back up their looks. Both are aggressively aerodynamic with the classic airfoil wedge shape, retractable headlights, ground effects, and rear spoilers. On paper, they have a lot in common, but one glance shows that these are two very different styling approaches at work. Shelby has a look that's fresh and distinctive. Trans Am, on the other hand, is clearly dated, circa 1982.
Yeah! You and what army, pal? Hey, you must be that mallet dude. All right. Look, when that guy took off in the middle of my demo, I had to pay for gas and everything. Is he gonna bust Daytona here or what?
Yeah, whatever you say, open the hood. Hey, this is the 5-liter V8 with single-point electronic fuel injection, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's what's on this one. 5-speed manual is standard, and there's an optional 4-speed automatic. It's got plenty of power, and that's what counts.
But Shelby's 2.2-liter Turbo 2 intercooled engine has more power and nearly as much torque. In fact, Trans Am's engine has more than twice the displacement, but it still can't match the Shelby's power.
Look, pal, you can always upgrade to a 5-liter V8 with multi-point injection, okay? Or, man, the monster 5.7-liter.
Produces
hey,
less
that's the one they
horsepower
use for
than
racing.
Shelby,
You
even
know what
with
they
more than
say,
twice
what
the
wins on
displacement.
Sunday sells on Monday. But then, hey, these babies sell themselves. You know what I mean?
I knew what he meant, all right. Timmy was Timothy Holliday, Jr. His dad founded Holliday Pontiac 30 years ago and wanted Sonny to take over for him someday. Timmy was just going through the motions until that someday. And if a car didn't sell itself, then he sure couldn't do anything about it.
Shelby's got standard ultra-high-performance 4-wheel disc brakes with a large swept area and venting in front and rear for better fade resistance. How about Trans Am?
Well, 4-wheel discs cost a couple of bucks extra, you know. Standard brakes put discs
Shelby,
up front and
4-wheel
drums in the
disc
rear.
brakes are
But this
optional
car's
on
had that kind
Trans
of
Am.
layout for years, and it's worked just fine. What makes you think Shelby's design is any better?
Because they were developed as a direct result of Daytona's racing and motorsports heritage, like the specially designed pumper wheels and maximum performance suspension. Trans Am isn't the only car with a racing background, you know.
Maybe it was Carroll Shelby's hands-on involvement with design and testing of this model. Maybe it was the list of champions that involvement brought. Maybe I was starting to get soft, but whatever it was, I wanted this car.
Hey, are you ignoring me? Oh, man, who do you think you are? My dad owns Holiday Pontiac, okay? What, I paid $100 for this? No, I can't believe it.
There's that $100 thing again. I wonder what that's all about.
Listen, dude, I don't know what your attitude problem is all about, okay? But you can't say nothing against the ride on the inside.
Huh? Want to translate that?
Get on the clue bus, man. The car, it's loaded.
Oh, care to elaborate?
Yeah, sure. Full gauge instrumentation with attack.
It's the same on Shelby. What about optional
Electronic
electronic
instrumentation isn't available on Trans Am.
No. Okay, fine. Trans Am's got standard tilt steering and a standard leather-wrapped steering wheel.
Shelby does too, and there's a standard driver's side airbag system, dude. And Shelby's standard sound system includes AM stereo, FM stereo, seek and scan functions, a cassette player, and 8 speakers. How about Trans Am?
Well, there's no AM stereo or cassette, and it's only got 6 speakers. But then, hey, on the Trans Am, you can upgrade to a system where the stereo controls are in the middle of the steering wheel, man. It's really gnarly.
I'll bet, Timmy.
But then Junior had a real selective memory. He never got around to mentioning the standard Shelby features that aren't available on Trans Am. Things like the message center, cup holders, a locking glove box. Oh, Trans Am did have a locking compartment in the rear quarter panel. Sounded real convenient. And there were other facts Timmy left out, like Shelby's standard fuel door release, not available on Trans Am, or the standard deck lid release, an extra cost on Trans Am, or the rear window defroster, again, extra cost. It was getting late. It was time to move on. The more I thought about it, the more it seemed that Shelby had the edge in value. Heads, Shelby wins, tails, Trans Am loses. But the facts were clear. To start, there was the big price difference. And then there were clear-cut advantages in warranty protection. The powertrain warranty on Daytona backs all the major driveline components, including the turbocharger and intercooler. No wonder. With more than 1 million Chrysler-powered vehicles produced in the last 5 years, Chrysler Motors is a true leader in this segment. Firebird models include a standard theft deterrent passkey starter interrupt system. Shelby counters with anti-theft labeling. And Shelby provides buyers with a standard driver's side airbag. On Trans Am, that isn't available at any price. The facts were clear, but they didn't point to any sale being stolen. So you think you have enough clues to solve the puzzle? Well then, here's how it works. Just review the evidence by stepping through the possible crime scenes, weapons, and suspects. Narrow down the choices, and when you're ready, just enter the solution on your keypad. It had been 24 hours since I started this case, but I couldn't come up with anything to prove that Daytona stole these sales, and I was starting to believe that that was something I'd never be able to prove. In fact, all these cars were comparable. The Daytona lineup had some real advantages, but then the competition had some of their own. I thought about all the so-called victims and who would be the most likely to pull this kind of stunt. Miss Cindy Lou Crawford? Or that Vinnie Simone? Billy Call Me William Gast? Or Daddy's boy, Timmy Holliday? Or maybe they were all in it together. It was clear that they all had a motive. It was equally clear that none were typical of who the competition hires for their sales forces. If they were, there'd be a lot fewer Mustangs, Camaros, Celicas, and Firebirds sold. And then there was the money. They all mentioned paying $100. That only added up to $400. So who put up the extra to pay my fee? Maybe Counselor Roby could fill in some of the blanks. Maybe she could fill in more than just the blanks. She had never said she was a lawyer, just that she was representing 4 clients. I jumped to that conclusion on my own. She went to them with a proposition to hire me to prove Daytona stole their sales. They'd pay a share of my fee, and she'd coordinate the details. With each of the 4 salespeople chipping in $100, that only left the lovely Miss Roby to bring the amount to $500. But there wasn't any reason for her to spend that kind of money on a wild goose chase. Unless... that was it. She knew no one stole the sale to begin with because she was the Dodge salesperson. But what did she have to gain? Then I knew. A fact that seemed totally unrelated brought it all together. She confessed that the records at her dealership showed that I was close to paying off my old Charger. And what better way to sell a detective than a little mystery? Worked like a charm. She didn't say, but she probably figured I'd spend my fee on the new car I'd buy from her. She was right. So that's what it was all about, a sales pitch. Not a bad one at that. Daytona had everything I wanted, and then some. I could get used to this.